This is Odds On with Mike Palm and Amal Shaw, live from the Circa Sportsbook on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome into Odds On. I'm Mike Palm, and he is Amal Shaw. Thanks for joining us here on a Thursday morning. Typically, we'll start with my top 5 power rank teams. Couple of reactions to last night. One, any surprise with Houston? Did you end up playing them on the bounce back theory in Game 2 at home?
I didn't, and I'm kicking myself because it was funny. A friend of mine texted me. He goes, "Hey, you like Atlanta?" I said, "This is only a one-way play. It's either Houston or no play." And I thought back on it, and I said, normally speaking, like 4 or 5 years ago, I would have fired on this game, and I said, I don't know why I haven't. I just, last year and a half, ever since last year when we had the shortened season, not been playing baseball as much, and I regret it last night. Astros dominant, get out early, and this thing was done.
Fried had a great start in Milwaukee, first start of the playoffs. Since then, he's not been good.
He really hasn't. We see Houston take advantage of that. Series is going to be an interesting one, but there's no real starting pitching for Atlanta.
If you went to Dusty Baker before the series and you told him you can be 1-1 going to Atlanta and they don't have Morton for the rest of the year, would he take it?
100%, as long as we don't see Russ Ortiz.
I agree with that. I think Houston's actually in a better position after 2 games having split at home than they were pre-flop from a betting perspective. I know you follow the NBA, used to bet it heavily, especially second half totals. I know you still follow it. What was the reason LeBron didn't play last night?
Ankle injury, but I think he was probably filming some other PSA he had to give.
It's hard to bet that league when you don't know who's going to play every
night. By the way, I love all these people under 30 who've never seen Jordan play and try to tell me LeBron's the best player of all time. By the way, you know this Lakers team only has 4 guys that are on the All-75 team. Dwight Howard should have been on there. He got hosed on that. LeBron's on there, AD's on there, Russell Westbrook's on there, and Carmelo's on there.
That's all.
That's all. And by the way, they're going to be like the Lakers with Gary Payton and Karl Malone.
Let's go to the top 5 from there's only one change from last week. That's the only team that lost, the Ravens, who were number 5. I dropped them down. I had a tough decision. I thought about this for a day and a half, not the whole time, but off and on. Who was I going to put in the 5 spot? It's really close for me between the Bengals and the Cowboys. I went with the Cowboys here. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that's the right call. You have to give Dallas credit for what they've been able to do so far. And it's not just the fact that they lost a heartbreaker in Tampa, but this is a team that has been effective offensively. They've really taken care of business against some weaker opponents. I like the way they put their foot on the throat of Philadelphia, and they're continuing to do that.
Mike McCarthy just had a press conference where he's saying we're waiting the remainder of the week to make a decision on whether Dak's going to play. So there's some uncertainty there, although I think he likely will play, or this number would have really jumped off of 1.5 or 2.
Well, listen, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys backup options, we're going to have to see Dak Prescott in this spot.
Okay, I stayed the same with the rest of the list. Rams were 4th. I keep them 4th. Struggled a little bit with the Lions. They do win the game, though. Sean Payton continues to be undefeated in regular season and postseason when he has the lead at halftime, and I'm sure he will again this week in Houston. Bucks stay at 3. They trounced the Bears. They only had to play half of football. They really didn't even play in the second half. That's how bad the Bears were. Bills stay at number 2, and then the Cardinals. I mean, they took care of business. They got the job done. I think we get some good tests for this top 5 this week, and that tonight, with Green Bay coming to town, no Davante Adams, I still think it's a test for the Cardinals, and I think Dallas will get tested on Sunday night in Minnesota.
Very disappointed with your top 5.
Because it's still, I won't move the Rams over the Buccaneers?
No, because you didn't have anything to really tick me off.
Yeah.
It's a pretty
mundane week.
Yeah, it is. I agree with your list.
Anybody else you would think at 5 other than Dallas?
No, not really. I mean, what do you want to make a case for Green Bay? But I think their defense got a lot of question marks.
Yeah. Is Baltimore? If Dallas played Baltimore on a neutral, I think Baltimore would probably be favored.
They might be, but here's the thing against Baltimore. They took a 66 or 67-yard field goal from Justin Tucker to win that game. They were fortunate to be able to win the Colts game. I mean, this team is sitting at 5-2. They could just as easily be 4-3 or even 3-4.
All right, when we take a look at the top 5 and their current odds to win the Super Bowl, the Cardinals at number 1 are actually the 4th choice at 9-1. Bills at number 2 on my list are plus 550. Bucks at 3 are the same, plus 550. The Rams at 4 are plus $8. The Cowboys at 5 are 14-1. Would the Cardinals or Cowboys interest you at those prices?
I think so, based on the pricing, absolutely. But for some reason, I am not on board with either of those 2 teams. I think the 3 teams you just mentioned previous to that are probably have a greater chance. Look, I like Buffalo's chances in the AFC. Just real quickly, let's stay on the AFC here.
Okay.
You look at it. In the East, they're going to win this division. And, look, I'm not taking anything away from the Patriots' run for 20 years, but part of their success was the fact that they got to play in the worst division in the history of football. And that's what the Buffalo Bills are taking advantage of. The Jets can't get out of their own way. Miami doesn't even know what an offensive forward pass looks like. And then, of course, we know New England's got a rookie quarterback. They're an average team at best if everything breaks correctly. I love Buffalo's chances not only they're going to win the division, but to get home field advantage throughout. and then they get the bye, which is huge. And then you have to go to Orchard Park, whether it be in that divisional playoff weekend or for the AFC Championship.
I think Tennessee might pose the biggest threat to them for the 1 seed simply because they have the tiebreaker if they can finish with the same record.
I would agree with you, but the Colts pose a threat to them. And also, I think Tennessee's defense is far worse than Buffalo's ever has been. And I think that's going to come back to bite them at the end. I like Buffalo to have a better record than them. The threats I thought out west would be potentially Kansas City, which no longer exists in my opinion. You've got the Chargers and the Raiders. I don't think they're on the same level as Buffalo. I think the Ravens are in an extremely competitive and tough division. I don't think any one of those teams is necessarily going to be able to get to the level of Buffalo.
Are the Raiders better for not having John Gruden as their head coach?
No, I don't know about that, but I will tell you this. Look, I don't know enough from an X's and O's standpoint to make that assertion, but it seems like they've simplified some things, and it's helped this team, and they've been dominant. I mean, they have dominated. Granted, it's against Denver and Philadelphia, but at the end of the day, they're still an NFL team. They've done a really nice job, and you have to give the Raiders credit for the way they've played.
All right, let's get to the big matchup tonight in Arizona. 7-0 Cardinals against the 6-1 Packers. Both teams are 6-1 against the spread from a betting perspective. Amal.
Wow.
The injury news shot this game from 3.5 to 6.5. Cardinals laying at home. Total down from 52 to 50.5. Slightly juiced to the under as money continues to come in on the under. You can get 220 on the Packers on the money line. How are you going to attack the game tonight?
I like Green Bay here catching 6.5. One thing I don't like is this game is being played on a Thursday. When they put the schedule together, you figured Arizona's probably 4-3 at best at this time. This has really worked out to a critical game in the NFC. If you are Arizona, if you win this game tonight, you have basically eliminated the Green Bay Packers from being one of those 4 teams that can get home field advantage over you, the others being the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Packers, and, of course, the Dallas Cowboys, because now the Packers would be at 2 losses. You've got the head-to-head. So, in essence, you got to lose 3 games before they could even catch you. So this is a really important game for Arizona.
Let's take a look at the Cardinals if we have it. Britton, the rest of the schedule for the Cardinals, they are going to have the return date with the Rams coming to Phoenix. Mm-hmm. That'll be a revenge spot for the Rams. They get San Francisco in San Francisco. We've seen them struggle offensively with Jimmy G, and obviously they get the Seattle Seahawks, but they're out of conference the rest of the way, home to the Panthers. They get the bye. They go to the Bears after the bye, at the Lions, versus the Colts at home. At Cowboys might be a key matchup in Week 17.
Absolutely. Like, you look at the schedule, this is very manageable. This is why this can be a critical game, because you get those 3 additional days before you play San Francisco. Look, I think Arizona probably wins this game without Devontae Adams in this lineup for Green Bay. But, Mike, I still think 6.5 is too many points.
If I put the regular season win total for Arizona at 13.5 right now, which way are you going?
I am going...
They'd have to go 7-3 the rest of the way to go over. I don't know.
I'm going over.
Yeah.
I think they don't lose 4 games.
Any interest in the total here tonight? I've heard a couple people that I listen to like it over because they don't think the Green Bay defense is gooey, doesn't have much of a pass rush.
I agree.
You do agree with the over here.
Well, they're right on. And this team has no pass rush, no Jair Alexander in that secondary, so we're not going to have that Hopkins-Alexander matchup, but I think Murray and company should be able to exploit it offensively.
Don't you think the Packers will have to focus on running the football without Lazard, Valdez-Scantling, and Adams?
Well, look, if you look at Aaron Rodgers' numbers, there's no drop-off without Devontae Adams in the lineup.
But they had Lazard in a lot of those games that they played without Adams as well.
I don't disagree with you there, but I still think when you look at this team, they have those injuries at the receiver position. You mentioned Scantling being out, of course, and Devontae Adams, but I think they'll be just fine. They got Rodgers. You got to just catch the football when he puts it there. They've done a nice job in the running game this year.
All right, I want to talk about Survivor. You're still in. You have both of your entries in. Mm-hmm. As you look at the board this week and where you're going to go with it, are you going to split your entries this week? Are you going to stay on the same team as you have done? And where are you looking right now?
I'm going to Kansas City, going with the Chiefs on both of them. It'll get a little bit more peculiar and precarious as we go a little bit forward. But right now, I think Kansas City. I know a lot of people be on the Rams and the Buffalo Bills.
Have you used the Rams yet on either ticket?
I have not.
And they play Jacksonville later in the year. They host Jacksonville. That's probably the circled spot for them.
They still got. I mean, they got some opportunities still.
Yeah,
they got a weak schedule.
Mitch asked this morning. 82% of the 2,100 odd remaining entries still have Kansas City available. Mm-hmm. How many do you think use them this week? And are people now, through happenstance and the way things have gone, the hard early schedule, and Kansas City not going to have anything locked up in the last week of the year, trying to save them for the $1 million bonus? Is that coming into people's head at all?
I think for a lot of people it probably is. They play Denver the final weekend of the season. I think it's at Denver. Right.
The opposite is Tampa Bay hosts Carolina.
Yeah. The problem is Tampa might not need the game.
They might be up 2 games for the one. It's interesting though if they still needed to get the 1 seed, they're going to play.
Absolutely,
right?
No
but
question about it.
The division should be locked up.
Yeah, division should be locked up by then. But Chiefs, look, here's the problem. You look at it from this perspective. Kansas City doesn't win a few games here. That game against Denver may not matter for them for the postseason.
That's true as well. They might be out of the race right now.
Because they get the Packers next week. It's not going to be an easy game. You're at the Raiders, then you get the Cowboys. They've got a 3-game stretch coming up that's going to be really challenging.
As a survivor player, how confident are you in the Chiefs this weekend?
On a scale of what, 1 to 10?
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10. I mean, a lot of weeks you are. You don't think there's any chance that...
If I get beat by the Giants, I get beat by the Giants. Who cares?
Nichols can beat you.
No, if you get beat, you get beat. There's just certain spots. Look, when Alabama's playing...
Let me ask you this. You took Carolina in week 1 over the Jets,
Yep.
right? What was your level of confidence in that pick? Was that also
20.
a 10?
No, that was a 20. That was off the charts. You know, all these sharp as a marble people tell me, oh, you can't take Carolina, can't do this, can't do that. Okay. All the non-zero through 0 guys. By the way, where's that guy? You want to book my bets? What happened to you?
Hey, boy, didn't like that side.
Yeah, he didn't like that side. I don't like that side.
I like Titans in a tease up to 7.5 this week in that game. I think that's the only way to play that game.
Well, look, depends. You said that, and I agree with you. I think this number is going to land on Tennessee being a favorite by the time we kick off. So if you like it, you got to take it right now.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, we're going to dive into college football, one of Amal's passions. There's a couple of games here on the Thursday night schedule, as well as on this Halloween weekend. Which games in college football are trap or treat? That's next on Odds On.
This is Odds On with Mike Palm and Amal Shaw on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back. This segment of Odds On is presented by Zyn Nicotine Pouches. Zyn is working to create a world where you can enjoy life on your own terms. Zyn Nicotine Pouches are a smoke-free, spit-free, and hassle-free tobacco alternative that can be enjoyed on the go anywhere and anytime, so you never miss a minute of the game or the tailgate party. Available in 10 varieties, including spearmint, coffee, and Amal's personal favorite, citrus. Zyn can be found at convenience stores nationwide, so you can find your Zyn wherever you are. Zyn's nicotine pouches are clean and discreet with no lingering smell. Plus, it's easy to use indoors or out, making it the perfect complement to your everyday. Also, Zyn comes in 2 strengths, so you have control over your nicotine satisfaction. Zyn contains nicotine and is only for adult nicotine consumers 21 plus. Learn more and find your local retailer at zyn.com. That's ZYN.com. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Welcome back into Odds On. I am Mike Palm. He is Amal Shaw. Let's flip the script and talk about some college football. Couple games tonight, Amal. A team you lost with on a Thursday night, Coastal Carolina hosting Troy. Huge favorite here, 17 at home, total 49.5.
Yeah, I don't have really interested in this game. Coastal's been dominant this year. Troy's not that bad. They come in at 4-3. The Trojans are a team that you expect in the past have been competitive, but you look at this Coastal team, offensively explosive, and I think they have an opportunity to really put some separation between themselves and Troy in this matchup. They played a tight competitive game last year, but going to stay away from this game here tonight.
All right, and then the other matchup tonight, USF, the University of South Florida, disappointing season at 2-5 straight up, although they have covered 4 of the 7 games. They're catching 10 at East Carolina, total 56 of them all.
Yeah, Britton and I were talking about this game before the show, and he likes South Florida. I said East Carolina. I'm staying away from this game as bad as South Florida's been playing. Had the win against Temple. Offense is starting to get going a little bit. Lack of consistency at the quarterback position. That's the big problem with them. We'll see what McLean can do against this team here. I'm just not a big fan of taking ECU here in this spot. Neither of these games appealed to me tonight. Might be an in-game opportunity.
All right, let's take a look at some of these games that could be a trap or could be a treat. The Iowa State Cyclones and Wonder Boy Matt Campbell go on the road. They did beat previously unbeaten Oklahoma State on Saturday in Ames, although they did not cover the 7. They go to Morgantown to take on West Virginia again. Iowa State laying a full touchdown on the road with a total of 48.5. Is this a possible look-ahead spot? The Longhorns will be in Ames next Saturday, and so will I.
Oh, you going to the game?
I am. I want to go to the game, Jack Trice Stadium.
Oh, make sure you're going in on John Deere. You can help mow the grass. The bottom line is in this matchup, to me, I would be looking at the Mountaineers here. I think it's too many points. As good as Iowa State is or what they were thought to be this year, Mike, they haven't blown teams out. We saw them go to Baylor. They lose a game in which they outgained Baylor by about 150 yards. West Virginia's been good at home. They did blow the game against Texas Tech, but I think catching a touchdown is a few too many points. I expect this game to be a competitive game in that 24-20 type of game, 28-21 type of range.
According to Amal Shaw, the Oregon Ducks control their own destiny as far as making the playoffs.
We need to address this right now. I'm so sick and tired of this. I was going through this morning. Look, you know who should be concerned are the Georgia Bulldogs.
You think Ohio State and Oregon will both get in over one-loss Georgia?
Here's the deal. Ohio State and Oregon run the table. They're getting in. If Oklahoma runs the table, they're getting in. Alabama wins the SEC. Georgia doesn't have a conference championship. They're not going to get in. Now, this is a large assumption that Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Oregon, all three run the table.
The committee will value conference championship over strength of schedule and quality wins.
100%. Here's the other question I would ask you right now. Who does Georgia have that's a quality win besides Kentucky?
Well, they went to the Plains at Jordan-Hare, and they beat up on Auburn.
You better hope
that's not a lackluster win.
I'm not saying it is, but you better hope.
Team.
Hold on a minute. You better hope Auburn doesn't wind up with 4 or 5 losses. Their season's not done yet.
That's true. They beat a previously unbeaten Kentucky squad, okay? And if they win this week, they will have gone to the cocktail party, into the mouth of the tiger, into the state of Florida, and beaten the greatest game planner of all time, your guy, Dan Mullen.
Well, first of all, your team doesn't even have an offense. And
here's
here's
what are you talking about?
You think Georgia's going to be able to score 35 against Alabama? Because they're going to have to score 35 to beat them. You're not going to slow down the Crimson Tide.
I don't agree with that. You're going to put the team total for Alabama at 35 in the S. What's the total going to be?
I don't care what it is. If it's not 30 and a half, we're taking the over.
Well, you said 35.
Alabama.
You'll take over 33 and a half.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I don't agree with that because Alabama will not run the football on Georgia.
They don't have to run the ball. They'll pick them apart with Mechie and Williams on the outside. These are 2 top 45 picks. Bryce Young's a future first-rounder. Evan Neal might be the first tackle off the board, top 5 pick here. They will be just fine.
To your point about thinking Oregon will get in if it's between them and Ohio State because of the win, I think ESPN will lobby hard for Oregon in the Pac-12.
You do?
I do. I think that they will get the push because Fox will lobby for the Big Ten team. ESPN will lobby for the Pac-12 team.
Well, I can't speak to which television lobbying group is going to get the team.
Yeah.
All I'm looking at is strength of schedule and how this thing plays out. If Oregon runs the table, Ohio State runs the table, Oklahoma runs the table, and if Georgia loses to Alabama, assuming Alabama – look, if Alabama comes in with 2 losses, Georgia can get in with the 1 loss. That's where it's going to be a little bit of an interesting scenario. But I think if you're Ohio State, you're Oregon – and Oklahoma, you control your own destinies.
Yes or no, if it's at a pick, will there be 2 SEC teams in the playoff? If it's pick 'em, -110 both ways, are you wagering?
Well, I've got Georgia to win the SEC.
So you would say no because they would go undefeated and Alabama won't get in with 2 losses.
Correct. But I still think I had kind of set up the bet with the situation where it's going to be able to hedge on Bama. And now this game's going to be close to a pick. I would have to give an edge to the Crimson Tide here. But Alabama should have lost to Florida as well. You could make that argument.
Meanwhile, in Eugene, an anemic Buffs offense is catching 24 against the Ducks with a total of 49. Oregon off a big win in the Rose Bowl over UCLA, and they face rival Washington in the border war next week.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, your statement's offensive to anemic people. I mean, the bottom line is this Colorado offense has been god-awful.
The Cal Bears look like the 85 Bears. They couldn't move the ball at all at Berkeley.
So I had the game. I'm watching it on the Pac-12 network, and this is great. I go about 3 plays into the second quarter. I go, I have to turn this game on again. It's over.
Were you watching the end game total? Like 4 minutes into the second half, the rest of the game was like 12 and a half. I mean, that's how low the end game was on and it stayed. It stayed under.
This Buffalo's team is very disappointing. I don't like lane 24 with Anthony Brown. The Ducks, they're not the old Ducks where they just get up and down the field and they go quickly.
Because of the quarterback play.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, Kayvon Thibodeau, this guy should be getting Heisman consideration. He's unbelievable.
Paul Howard, when I did my appearance on Follow the Money this morning, made an interesting point about will the committee consider the bogus pass interference call on the farm against Oregon on the last play in that loss?
Just like Colorado doesn't consider the illegal block against the Rocket for the national championship. I don't see that anywhere in Boulder. No, it's irrelevant. They lost the game. They shouldn't even been in that position. Why are you in that position against Stanford?
They didn't have their offensive coordinator.
You know what?
They didn't have their best player.
Hold on a minute.
And they got a really bad call on defensive pass interference. I'm not trying to make the case for Oregon.
Clemson has won a national championship despite Tony Elliott. They have won despite the fact that Tony Elliott is their offensive coordinator. You got 5 stars. You're Oregon. You got players. Go out there and make a play. You're playing David Shaw. You know what they're running. They only have one play in the playbook. The Stanford playbook is the menu from My Cousin Vinny. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, fade, fullback dive, or halfback trap. That's it.
You're making my argument about Oregon. All right, Texas Tech goes to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's still undefeated. They win in Lawrence, but fall in the polls behind Alabama. Oklahoma's going to lay 19 this week. They face Baylor next week. Is this a look-ahead spot? And how's the state of Texas Tech after firing the head coach? Did you agree with that decision?
I did not agree with the decision at this point in time. If you're Texas Tech, wait till the end of the season. You're not Oklahoma. You're not Texas. And, you know, the reality of it is you're going to get some coordinator somewhere that nobody cares about. You brought in Matt Wells from Utah State. It was a nondescript hire. Your next hire is going to be a nondescript one. I think these guys are in trouble in this game with Caleb Williams. I think Oklahoma bounces back. But I've been saying that all year. I've been waiting for this Sooners team to be able to bounce back, but I think this is a spot they finally get on track.
A lot of people have this game at Liberty between UMass and Liberty circled for this week. Liberty is laying 36, a total of 57.5. Hugh Freeze returns to Oxford next week as Liberty takes on Ole Miss. Can you stomach taking 36.5 with this UMass team?
Well, no, I couldn't. You'd have to take Liberty here. I mean, Malik Willis and company should be able to move the ball. They beat these guys last year 45-0. Should be something along a similar scoreline. You know, UMass has one win on the season, but think about this. Last week they lose at Free Shoes U by 56. Liberty can put up the same number.
It was like 38-3 at half. It was on the ACC network, so the game was on everywhere. I would turn back on another 14 for FSU. Oh, another 14 for FSU. Undefeated Wake Forest continues their march towards an ACC title. They host Duke. Duke not very good this year. Wake Forest laying 17.5, fresh off scoring 70 at West Point. 16.5. Total of 70. Is the total too low here, Amal?
I don't know, because I think when you look at Duke, this could be a game where they kind of stall out a little bit. Wake's going to have to get into the 40s, so I'm not sure about this one. I didn't play this total. I don't really like either side in this matchup. I think the number is correct.
Yeah. Okay, here's an interesting game. At Stark Vegas, Kentucky laying 1 on the road with a total of 47. They get Tennessee next week in their rivalry game. Do you like laying 1 on the road here? Do you think Kentucky wins this game, or do you think the Pirate, who hates candy corn, will come away the victor as a small home dog?
You know, I really don't know, but I like this game under. 47 is the total here. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. Mississippi State's got that short passing game, which is really like extended running game. I don't think they're going to put up a ton of points on this Kentucky defense, but at the same time, Kentucky's style of play, I don't think they're going to score more than 24.
How do you evaluate the Wildcats' performance in Athens? Do you downgrade them? Do you keep them the same, or do you upgrade them off that loss?
I don't really downgrade, but we knew what their offense was. I think you give Georgia a ton of credit for being so dominant.
Yeah, I still think that Kentucky is a good team. I mean,
it's just one.
They
loss.
didn't embarrass themselves in that game. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about teasers in the NFL.
This is Odds On with Mike Palm and Amal Shaw on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Sports Betting National Championship is coming November 5th through the 7th, and VSiN will provide coverage from the main event all weekend long, including live on-location updates for all the action. Visit VSiN.com/SBNC for more information and learn how you can enter for a chance to test your skills and win cash, including the $1 million top prize. That's VSiN.com/SBNC.
Welcome back into Odds On. I'm Mike Palm. He's Amal Shaw. Speaking of that, we have Brady and Femi there, right? Covering it for VSiN, the National Sports Betting Championship.
Let me ask you a question. You think I know other people's schedules?
No, I don't think you look at your own.
I don't.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Brady might want it might be a little chilly. You might want more than just a T-shirt when he's out there. Okay, let's take a look at teaser opportunities in the NFL this week and start with tonight's game. Would you tease the Cardinals down to 0.5 or the Packers up to 12.5?
Up.
But would you really tease them?
No.
I'm giving you an either or, but you wouldn't tease the game is what you're saying.
No, correct.
Okay. I like the Bengals. I'm thinking about laying the points with the Bengals here. 10.5 against the Jets. Jets, they don't have the quarterback. I think the Bengals defense is good. Would you tease the Bengals down to 4.5 or the Jets up to through 17? We don't have to just do a 6-point teaser. Would you tease them up to the key numbers here through 17?
I would tease the Jets up.
Tease the Jets up. This is the obvious one, I think. Titans, Colts. You would tease through the 0 with the Colts, or would you tease the Titans up through the 3 and 7?
I would take Tennessee. Why don't you ask all your skinny friends how it's done?
Would you just play the Titans plus 1.5, or you would rather tease them?
I would rather tease them. I think it's a tough game. I think the Colts are starting to play a lot better, and they finally realized this kid, Jonathan Taylor, that they have. Yeah. He's only the leading rusher in the NCAA over 3 years of a career in terms of what he's been able to do. It's unbelievable in terms of the success he's had here. And Carson Wentz starting to throw, and Pittman really coming out. And by the way, between T.Y. Hilton and Paris Campbell, if we can just get them healthy for 2 games this season, that'll be a benefit.
Can the Titans win the division this weekend?
Yes, they win this division. They
like
win
the
this
Cardinals
game.
and the Mets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, exactly. 86. We already knew it was over with the 4-game sweep.
Patriots and Chargers. You told me yesterday you like the Chargers -5.
I do. I think they're going to win this game coming off of bye. Listen, a lot of people are high on New England. I think they get a lot of credit. This is like in college when the name on the jersey gives you a lot of credibility. Just like Alabama moving up for their win against Tennessee, which was a 7-point game with 9 minutes to go. A lot of people didn't see the game, and so they all of a sudden go based on the final result. Similar situation here. I like the Chargers here. I think they play well. I think the defense will be much better. I like them to cover 5 here.
Is the 45-0 drubbing at the hand of the Patriots in SoFi last year a factor in this game?
Absolutely. Huge revenge spot. Anytime you get embarrassed, think about this. If somebody beats you in something, you always want to get back at them, especially when they embarrass you like they did. I expect the Chargers to be ready to go.
I'll tell you what else I think is a factor, not just this week, but moving on. They finally cut Vizcaino and got Hopkins, who I thought Washington made a bad decision in cutting.
I agree.
I think it's a big upgrade to Hopkins.
I agree with you on both fronts. Thought it was a bad move by Washington bringing in Blewett. Never kicked in a game since 2016. And then, of course, you get Hopkins. Look, Hopkins may not be the guy that some of these other kickers are from 48 and plus, but he's still very good, very efficient. I like their chances with him.
The Bucs are up to 6 in some spots. Would you tease them down to a pick, or would you tease the Saints up through the 10?
Probably wouldn't tease either in this game.
Is this a pass game
yeah.
for you? Evaluate the coaching performance of Pete Carroll on Monday night. I've heard some criticism of his just insistence on running the football and not really giving Geno Smith many chances to throw the ball down the field outside of the first touchdown, the first play.
Well, first of all, they ended up rolling a safety over to that side with DK, where Marshawn Lattimore was on DK. I understand you want to get him the ball, but he wasn't always open. That's one of the other factors. Lattimore's a big time DB, and then on top of it, there's a reason why Geno Smith has been a career backup. I mean, let's not act like Russell Wilson was out there throwing the football. I don't necessarily put that on Pete Carroll. They just don't have the quality of quarterback right now.
Geno Smith is the last rookie quarterback to beat Tom Brady. He did it with the Jets in 2013. Tom Brady has won 16 straight games against opposing rookie quarterbacks since then.
Well, Geno Smith wasn't bad when he came out of West Virginia. He's regressed since he's been in the league. 12 for 22 last week for $167. It's not like this guy's really pressing the ball down the field. And think about this. You take away one of those completions for 84 yards, so he winds up in a scenario where he's got 11 completions for 83 yards.
Cowboys up to 2.5 at the Vikings. Dak likely, but we haven't confirmed him yet, as Mike McCarthy had a press conference earlier. Is this a spot where you would tease the Vikings up through 8.5?
Yeah, absolutely. I like Minnesota here.
Let's take this example. It's 2.5, or 1.5 now off the news that Dak's improbable. Would you take then a 6-point teaser to get to 7.5, or would you take a 7-point teaser to get to 8.5? 8 can be a key number in the NFL now because of the 2-point conversion.
It can, but I tell you what, here's the key. Depending on where you get the teaser, what is the rule? Is it a tie as a push or tie as a loss? No, but the reason why I say that
you won't want the 8 if it's a loss.
Correct, but if it's a push, I actually want 8. I don't want 8.5 just in case if my other one loses, then I could get a refund.
Yeah. In this game, do you have a lean and a high total 55 here?
No play on the total here. I think Minnesota's going to win this football game. I
do?
Yeah, I think so at home. I think they're being a little bit underestimated. I think we'll finally get an opportunity to see how good Dallas's defense is going up against a well-balanced offense.
I was on Gil's podcast earlier today, and this was the top play for Pro Football Focus, Eric Egler. He likes the Cowboys here. He thinks the conservative Minnesota offense might get lapped by the time they figure out they're in the game here. Just because of the way they coach this, they're really settled for field goals. Cousins has one of the 5 lowest targets per attempt average in the first 3 quarters on first and second downs in the league. And he's very conservative and has played well in the fourth quarters of games, so it's a little bit of a mirage, his statistics. Your reaction, Amal Shaw.
Well, that's fine, but my point is, listen, teams going on the road, you want to lay points long term, it's going to be a losing proposition. Dallas is coming off of a bye. That's great. Bodes well for them. Dak's a little bit banged up in this matchup. At the end of the day, this is an important game for Minnesota. It's a far more important game for the Vikings than it is for the Dallas Cowboys. If Minnesota loses this game, they lose the traction that they've gained after the rough start so far on the season.
There was this game 1 or 2 years ago where this was a Sunday night game, maybe 2 years ago. I think they had fans in Dallas. Mm-hmm. Minnesota actually came back and won a very high-scoring game against the Cowboys.
Look, these games have always been good matchups. Last year, we saw the one with CeeDee Lamb with a late touchdown in the fourth quarter. I just think that as good as Dallas is, this is going to be a tight game, and I like the home team here.
AFC North matchup between the Steelers and the Browns. This game is in Cleveland. The Browns are laying 3.5 here. Do you tease the Steelers up past the 7?
I do not. I don't think Pittsburgh's a team you can back in a lot of spots. Browns' injury concerns are a problem here. I think
What's the total? 42 and all.
That is low. I would lean towards the over here. It's just too low for an NFL game with two teams that are capable at times. Not Pittsburgh particularly, but the Browns. You have to look at the injuries for Cleveland before you make any decisions on this game.
49ers go to Chicago to Soldier Field to take on the Bears. They're either laying 3.5 or 4, depending on where you're looking at the number. Do you tease the Bears up here? You can tease them through 10 here to 10.5 at 3.5, or you can tease them to 10.5 with a 6.5 point teaser at 4.
Or you can go to 7 and take it to 11. I would take the Bears in 11 here. I think without Khalil Mack, it's going to make a difference in terms of the pass rush. But this 49ers offense doesn't really necessarily exude confidence, and I think the Bears will be more competitive in this one. Look, we knew they were going to get beat by Tampa, but it was surprising how much Fields struggled in that game.
It was over halfway through the first quarter, I thought.
It was over by about the first possession.
He seemed to be lost. I'm going to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Is Fields' performance so far this year about his potential as a pro football quarterback or about Nagy's ability as a play caller?
No, it's about Nagy's ability as a play caller. Because you look, when they allowed Bill Lazor and they were pushing the ball down the field, he looked good. He was making throws. And I don't care if it was against the Lions. The bottom line is they were making effective plays. Some of these coaches, like Nagy, They should be paying guys like Patrick Mahomes. I've said it. I know Lombardi gets offended when I say this, but everybody from that Patriots staff should be paying Tom Brady money. They all suck.
Including Bill Belichick.
Absolutely. But Bill Belichick, hey, hold on a second there.
No,
I thought you were being sarcastic.
No, I wasn't.
How many times has Bill Belichick made the playoffs without Tom Brady as a starting quarterback for more than 3 games in a season? Once in 9 years. Oh, he's the greatest coach of all time. I don't think so.
Pro Football Focus has him ranked as currently the 6th best head coach in the NFL.
Doesn't Chris Collinsworth own Pro Football Focus?
I'm not sure.
Now, that man's a member. What's he going to tell us?
Eagles go to the Lions here. I think this is a game the Lions really need. It's a winnable game, my opinion. If they lose this game, I don't know where they're going to pick up a win the rest of the year, maybe when they host the Bears on Thanksgiving. But 3.5. Do you tease the Lions up through 10.5, actually?
No. I like the Lions to win this game outright. Ooh. I like the plus 3.5 here.
How about plus 155? Just plus
Dude, yeah, absolutely. I like both sides. I like the plus 155 and I like the 3.5. Now, in the NFL, you got to take the 3.5. Howie Roseman and this Philadelphia Eagles team can't figure it out. Jalen Hurts can't play. Nick Sirianni can't coach. They're just a bad football team. They made bad draft picks.
Their defense is bad, too. Don't let people fool you that their defense is any good.
Who are these people that are alleging this?
That it's average or anything.
Are these people in Bucks County? I don't know anybody outside of Bucks County that thinks the Eagles can play.
Jaguars make a long road trip for your boy Urban Meyer all the way up to Seattle. Seahawks with Geno Smith laying 3.5 in this spot. Do you tease Urban and the boys up to 10.5? I
do. I think this is a great opportunity with this team here. They're coming off of a bye. Geno Smith, a company, quick turnaround. And by the way, the way he performed at the end of that game, you think DK Metcalf's really running these routes this week? I mean, I'm not getting the football. It'll be interesting to see. But I think this is the second longest trip in the NFL.
Yeah. Giants, Chiefs. You would tease the Chiefs down? No.
What's the line? 9.5. I don't want to tease it at 3.5. You
can take it down to 2.5 with a 7-point teaser.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. But it's probably cheaper to take a money line parlay with somebody else, depending on you have to look at the numbers.
Okay, when we come back, it's them all in and the Palm Reader Playbook.
This is Odds On with Mike Palm and Amal Shaw on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you're looking for more sports betting discussion around your local teams, BetRivers has you covered. BetRivers has launched a series of CityCasts designed to tackle sports betting from the local perspective. There's CityCast in Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, LA, and now Denver. Subscribe to your local CityCast wherever you get your podcast. Boy, if they added Memphis on here, the only thing you would have been missing was a gun.
Welcome back to Odds On. I'm Mike Palm. He's Amal Shaw. You have the play tonight on the Packers, but it's a couple of college football futures as well. Go ahead. You have the honors.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the Green Bay Packers catching 6.5 tonight here. And by the way, what a job by our graphics people. They got a late addition in there on this Packers play. Plus 6.5 versus the Cardinals, like this one. And then I've got 2 plays to win the national championship. I actually got the Buckeyes at 8-1 and 7.5 to 1. But I've got Ohio State. The current number's at 6.5, so we're going to give that out at 6.5 to 1 to win the national title. And Alabama plus 225. I don't know which team's going to win it, but I believe it's going to be one of these 2 teams at the end of the day.
If Ohio State makes the playoffs, what are their odds be at that point, assuming it's Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and
Oklahoma or Alabama?
Oklahoma, probably.
Buckeyes probably about 2 to 1.
Yeah. So you have good value there.
No, I'm not hedging there.
Well, we have 2 sides to it.
No, because Alabama won't be in based on that scenario you just gave, but because Ohio State's going to beat them all.
You think Alabama will be favored over Georgia in an SEC title game?
By about 1 to 2 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give just one play, nothing tonight. Saturday, 9 Pacific, 11 a.m. local time. I'm going to take the Iowa Hawkeyes plus 3.5. I think this is too big of an adjustment from the look-ahead line of minus 2.5 on Iowa before they lost to Purdue. I don't know that they're any different team than they were. I mean, they have to run the football. Petrus isn't that good. They play with a thin margin. Here's the thing. Graham Mertz is no good either. I mean, it's a push at the quarterback position. Wisconsin's defense, better run defense. Iowa, better pass defense, better turnover margin, better special teams. I'll take more than a field goal in this spot. 2 factors. They get to bye Iowa. Wisconsin played at Purdue last week. And 2, the early local start. The students won't even be there till the second half.
Fair enough there. Are you getting a lot of pressure from Iowa constituents to go against Frank Schwab here? I just can't back this anemic offense.
No, I'm not. Frank Schwab said he wouldn't lay the points. Didn't Frank say Iowa will win the game outright? He's been right on every one of his picks involving Milwaukee or Wisconsin teams.
Fair enough. I'm not sure on this one. I think
it's a stay away.
Well, I do think it is a stay away. I think it's a tough game to call. I think this is a game where an in-game opportunity presents itself. You take a look at it, but I think Wisconsin's going to win the game because of their run defense.
How about the other Big Ten key matchups? Michigan State, 4. You getting involved there?
I am not. I don't know what either of these teams are. You know how Michigan has fallen off? You remember you go back to the 90s and the early 2000s? You knew who every quarterback, running back, and wide receiver at Michigan were. Now you got to actually buy a program. I mean, these guys, they're just not what they once were, and that's the problem with Michigan. We'll find out how good they are. And look, I understand the knock on some of the Big Ten that these teams haven't played anybody yet. When you are Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, let me take Clemson out of that equation because the ACC has been so bad for half a decade. But Ohio State, Oklahoma, you play 3 to 4 games a year. This argument that they don't play anybody, no, they don't. They're better than talent-wise. They're better than about 2/3 of their schedule. They literally can just play with their third team and beat most of their schedules.
Do you agree that in the SEC, the middle of the pack is harder to compete with than the middle of the pack in other conferences?
Oh, it's not even close. Yeah, absolutely. Because when you look at it, you look at Auburn, Arkansas, Ole Miss, I'm going to put in the upper echelon, top 3 teams in that league. But even A&M right there. LSU's middle of the pack, Florida's middle of the pack. Those teams are far better than the Purdue's and some of the other teams you see in other leagues.
Okay, let's talk a little bit of World Series. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Astros 7, Braves 2 last night. Freed his 3rd consecutive subpar postseason start. They go back to Atlanta, 1-1. No Morton for the rest of the series for the Braves. It resets almost to the series price, 140, 145, the pre-flop price on the series. Game 3 tomorrow, Luis Garcia against Ian Anderson is a dead pick and a total of 8. Is this total a little short?
I think it is, especially in Atlanta at Turner Field. I like this one to go over. I think both teams will be fine. This should be an intriguing matchup this weekend in terms of the games. Critical game 3 here,
The
though.
market agrees with you at DraftKings up to 8.5 now, juice to the under, minus 115. Real quickly, World Series MVP odds currently. Michael Brantley's a favorite at plus 550. Altuve plus $7. Kyle Tucker 11-1. Jordan Alvarez 11-1. Freddie Freeman 11-1. Anybody you like out of that group, or would you look for a longer shot or not involved?
I wouldn't be involved, but Freddie Freeman and Altuve. I think if the Astros win, Altuve is going to have some big plays along the way. His speed even creates problems, and then Freddie Freeman's going to have to get some clutch hits if this team's going to win.
How about the top 10 guys? None of them are pitchers in a World Series.
That's amazing. Think about that. That's a great point. Point.
It's a World Series like I've never seen. It's with Morton out. It's just all bullpen. McCullers and Morton were the 2 aces. They're both gone now, and so it's just all bullpen games. Okay, Amal, I want to go back to some of our interesting discussions we've had about conferences and who's going to win conferences. We've talked about this very interesting race in the ACC. I think it was a month ago. Pittsburgh was 19-1 and Clemson was minus 170. Currently, Clemson 15-1, Pittsburgh minus 135. Wake the second choice at plus 280, and then we go down to NC State and Virginia, 12-1. Clemson, as I said, 15-1. UNC and Miami, 30-1. Louisville, 60-1. Is there value on Pitt at minus 135? I think if they get to the title game, they'll be a bigger favorite than that.
I tend to agree with you. I like Pittsburgh here in this spot. But why do you and Britain always talk about the ACC? Is this to remind me when I knew Clemson was going to have a bad year that I didn't take Pitt at 19-1? I can't believe I love Kenny Pickett. I liked him coming in the season. Yeah. A little bit concerned what they lost defensively. I thought Clemson lost too much overall. But I'm just regretting not taking this team. I like Wake Forest. They've done a nice job. But I don't think Clawson's team is going to be able to go, just pound for pound with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's a much better team than people realize.
I think Narduzzi took a lot of criticism the last 3 or 4 years of his game management, and that he's sort of,
I'd be number one on
that
list.
But how about this year? He sort of resurrected himself here with this banner season for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, he hasn't had a situation where he's got the ball 4th and goal at the 1 yard line, trailing by 7 points with 5 minutes and decided to
kick the field goal.
A 20-yarder, by the way. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. A David Shaw move for sure.
Yes.
Wake Forest at plus 280, not enough for you? You don't believe in their defense?
Look, they can score. Hartman's terrific, but they're not going to be able to move the ball like this against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got a good defense. I think Pittsburgh's balance is overlooked. It's so unfortunate they lost this game to Western Michigan. Otherwise, you have to talk about the Pitt Panthers.
I think Pitt Panthers in the top 5 or 6.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
How long will it take Dabba Dabba Doo to get back into the national championship picture with this team?
Well, it's going to come down to a couple of things. First of all, are you going to make the offensive coordinator change with Tony Elliott? It's got to be done immediately after this season. If they do that, they'll be fine. The other thing is, though, look, nobody calls them out on it. They benefited immensely from playing in the college football version of the AFC East. I mean, this program has benefited extremely well from the fact that Miami and Florida State have really gone through some really lean years, considering what they were the previous 3 decades. I think they'll be back there, but I thought Paul Feinbaum made a statement before the season started, which he goes, I don't believe Clemson will rise back to that level, and I tend to agree with him. Think about this. You had generational talents in Watson and Lawrence. You need somebody like that.
Before we get to the Pac-12, how did this happen to these big 3 Florida schools that they're all, and I argue, you maybe say Florida's not down. I say they are down. But how did it happen that all 3 of these schools are on hard times?
Well, let's start real quickly with
Is there any state with more football talent outside of Texas than Florida?
I don't think Texas has more talent than Florida.
Okay.
I think Florida probably, you go, depending if you go per capita, obviously you'd say Georgia, Louisiana, and then probably Florida. But I think overall, Florida's got a ton of talent. Start with the University of Miami. It's a small private school. People forget it. It's got only about 4,500 to 5,000 students. The stadium is in Miami Gardens. The school is in Coral Gables. It's a 30-minute drive. You don't get students coming there on a Saturday. They don't have the support. Their facilities are dated. They just don't have what they need to be competitive there. You need a coach like Butch Davis who could recruit Broward and Dayton nationally. This team would be prominent. Think about when they were great. DJ Williams from Colorado, from the Bay Area, played at De La Salle. Then you have Reed and Wayne from Louisiana. They went and got players from all over. Florida's problem is Will Muschamp ran that program right into the ground. Dan Mullins had to take over a program after Jim McElwain that was terrible. They just weren't a good program, and he hasn't really gotten a turnaround. Dan Mullins is not a good recruiter. That's the problem. You got to recruit.
Not a good quarterback recruiter, that's for sure.
Yeah, I knew. Listen, when Emory Jones initially committed to Ohio State, when I saw his tape, I was like, no problem, you can have him. This guy's never going to get to see the field for the Buckeyes. And then Florida State. Look, this is a program. You don't have the fan base up there. You don't have the economics in the panhandle there that supports it the same way. Make no mistake about it. Florida's the flagship school in the state.
Did Jimbo get out at the right time, or are they down because Jimbo got out?
No, Jimbo got out at the right time. He knew his recruiting had fallen off. The cupboard was bare. The offensive line was terrible. They have free fallen without a parachute.
I look at the 10-year run of Jimmy Johnson from 85 with Miami through 95 with Dallas as maybe the greatest 10-year run of a coach. I mean, I know you should say should have. He won a national title, probably could have won 3. Yeah. Totally dominant program, and then takes a 1-15 team and wins 2 Super Bowls. So, it wasn't easy for him to come to Coral Gables. Schnellenberger, beloved. They won a national title. Here's this guy from Stillwater, wants to change their defense, right? But what he did there at Miami, I still think is one of the greatest coaching jobs in college football ever.
Well, the reality to me, I would probably point towards 2 people. Snyder at Kansas State, the turnaround he had there. Because you don't have anybody to recruit in state.
Another guy in the Hayden Fry coaching tree.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anybody that can
Alvarez
coach.
at Wisconsin took over at
Alvarez did an amazing job. And then I'd point to Bobby Bowden, what he did at Florida State. Yeah. 1987 to 1999.
Top 5 every year?
No, top 4. Top 4. Think about that.
Oregon plus 120 to win the Pac-12 championship. Is it worth a play right now?
Listen, I'm going B.J. Baylor and Fenwick to ride this Oregon State team down to Las Vegas.
They're 9-1.
I like them. I like Oregon State. I'm going to take a shot. Even though the game's in Eugene and I said Oregon would win, I think at 9-1 you take a shot, then you can take Oregon in that matchup.
What's the line going to be on that game?
Probably
10?
about 7.
Oh,
yeah.
Stay tuned to VSiN. Up next, it's Betting Across America.